Real change doesn't come from how fired up you feel at 2 a.m. after watching a video. It doesn't come from that rush of emotion that hits and fades just as fast. Real change comes from what you do when nobody is clapping, when nobody is watching, when the feeling is gone, and all that's left is the work. That's where discipline lives. That's where the foundation gets poured. Most people are addicted to motivation. They wait for the right mood, the right song, the right moment. They think if they don't feel inspired, they can't move. That mindset keeps people stuck in the same place for years, talking about what they're going to do instead of becoming who they said they'd be. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. Discipline asks who you're committed to becoming. Every level you want in life requires a version of you that can show up without being convinced. You don't negotiate with discipline. You don't debate it. You build a routine so solid that even on your worst days, progress still gets made. That's how people separate themselves from the crowd, not with talent alone, but with consistency that doesn't break under pressure. Look around and you'll notice something. The people who really win aren't the loudest. They're the most locked in. They don't announce every move. They execute. They understand that success is a daily job, not a viral moment. Discipline turns effort into identity. After a while, it's not something you force, it's just who you are. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. Motivation rises and falls, but discipline builds systems that carry you forward when emotions fail. You don't need to feel ready to do the work. You need to be reliable to your goals, reliable to your future self, reliable even when the results are slow and the road feels empty. A lot of people quit right before the breakthrough because discipline hadn't fully formed yet. They were still operating off excitement instead of commitment. Discipline teaches patience. It teaches you how to stay focused when there's no immediate reward. That's a rare skill, and rare skills create rare outcomes. Real discipline shows up in the small things. Waking up when you said you would, finishing what you started, choosing long-term respect over short-term comfort. Nobody sees those moments, but those moments see you. They shape your character. They sharpen your mindset. Over time, they turn you into someone who doesn't fold when life applies pressure. When discipline becomes your standard, excuses lose their power. You stop explaining why things didn't happen and start adjusting so they do. You take responsibility for your time, your energy, your direction. That ownership is freedom, because once you own it, you can change it. Discipline also protects your vision. It keeps you moving when distractions try to pull you off course. It teaches you to say no to things that feel good now, but cost you later. Every disciplined decision is a vote for the future you're building, and those votes add up faster than you think. The truth is, motivation is loud but unreliable. Discipline is quiet but undefeated. Motivation wants comfort. Discipline demands growth. Motivation asks for perfect conditions. Discipline works with what's available and makes it enough. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You need to apply pressure daily. One focused hour, one tough decision, one promise kept to yourself. That's how discipline compounds. That's how confidence gets built. Confidence isn't something you hype up. It's something you earn through repeated proof. Over time, discipline rewires how you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who tries and start identifying as someone who finishes. That shift changes everything. The way you walk, the way you speak, the way you approach obstacles. Problems don't disappear, but you stop doubting your ability to handle them. People would call it luck when it works out. They won't see the mornings you showed up tired. They won't see the days you wanted to quit, but didn't. They'll only see the result, but you'll know the truth. The truth is, discipline carried you there when motivation couldn't. If you're serious about changing your life, stop chasing feelings and start building habits. Build a code you live by. Build standards you don't break. Let discipline become non-negotiable. Because once discipline is locked in, progress becomes inevitable. And when discipline becomes your lifestyle, success stops being a dream and starts being a direction. Every big outcome you admire started with small, almost invisible actions done every single day. Not once, not when it felt exciting, but when it felt ordinary. That's the part people skip over. They want the highlight, not the habit. They want the finish line, not the footsteps it takes to get there. But life doesn't work like that. Life responds to repetition. Daily actions are powerful because they shape who you become before they shape what you get. Every day you either cast a vote for the person you're building or the person you're escaping from. There's no neutral. You're either stacking towards something greater or slowly drifting backward. The danger is that the drift feels comfortable, so most people don't notice it until years pass and nothing has changed. The compound effect isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It works quietly, stacking effort on top of effort, decision on top of decision. One workout won't transform your body. One focused hour won't build the empire. But repeat those actions long enough, and they create a gap so wide that people start calling you different, special, gifted. They don't see the math behind it. They only see the outcome. Most people underestimate what they can become because they overestimate what can happen overnight. They get discouraged when progress is slow, not realizing that slow progress is still progress. Daily discipline teaches patience. It teaches you how to stay committed without needing immediate validation. That's a skill that separates leaders from followers. Every day you wake up, you're being trained by your routine. Your habits are either sharpening your edge or dulling it. What you read, what you listen to, how you speak to yourself, how you handle pressure, none of that is random. It's all being rehearsed daily. And whatever you rehearse becomes automatic. Automatic behavior creates predictable results. The reason daily actions matter so much is because they remove decision fatigue. You're not asking yourself what to do. You already know. You show up, you execute, you move forward. That consistency builds trust with yourself, and self-trust is a dangerous thing in the best way. Once you trust yourself to follow through, your confidence becomes unshakable. People talk about mindset like it's a switch you flip. It's not. Mindset is built through evidence. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you prove that you're reliable. Over time, that proof stacks. You stop doubting your ability to handle challenges because you've seen yourself do hard things daily. That's real belief, not talk, not hype. Daily actions also protect you from chaos. When life gets loud, routine keeps you grounded. When emotions rise, discipline keeps you steady. You don't panic because you've trained for consistency. You don't freeze because movement is already part of your system. That's why people who master their daily habits rarely fall apart under pressure. There will be days when it feels pointless, days when the results don't show. That's where most people quit. They mistake silence for failure. But silence is often growth happening underground. Roots grow before anything breaks the surface. If you pull the plant out too early, you kill it. The same thing happens when you abandon daily effort too soon. Daily actions also shape how others perceive you, not because you're seeking approval, but because consistency is visible. People notice who shows up, who improves, who doesn't disappear when things get uncomfortable. Opportunities follow reliability. Trust follows discipline. And those two together open doors motivation alone never will. The key is to keep your actions simple and repeatable. You don't need extreme moves. You need sustainable ones. Actions you can execute even on low energy days. That's how momentum stays alive. Big goals are achieved through small behaviors done with seriousness. Over time, the compound effect creates identity shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to change and start seeing yourself as someone who lives a certain way. That's when transformation locks in, because identities are hard to break. When your habits match your identity, consistency becomes effortless. One day you'll look back and realize the life you're proud of wasn't built in dramatic moments. It was built in ordinary days handled with discipline, quiet mornings, focused hours, tough choices made without applause. That's the real grind. That's the real power. Daily actions don't just change your schedule, they change your standards. And once your standards rise, your life has no choice but to rise with them. 30 days doesn't sound like much. Most people hear that and think it's too short to matter. That's because they underestimate the power of showing up without interruption. Consistency for 30 days isn't about the calendar, it's about repetition, forcing a new identity to form. When you do the same disciplined actions every day, your mind starts adjusting to who you're becoming, not who you used to be. Identity isn't something you're born with, it's something you practice. Every action is a statement. Every habit is a message you send to yourself about who you are. When you stay consistent for 30 days, those messages get louder. You stop seeing discipline as effort and start seeing it as normal. That's when the shift happens. Most people live with an identity built on inconsistency. They see themselves as someone who starts strong, but fades out, someone who needs pressure to perform, someone who waits for the right moment. 30 days of consistency interrupts that story. It creates evidence, and evidence changes belief faster than motivation ever will. The first week is uncomfortable because you're fighting the old version of yourself. Your mind looks for shortcuts. Your body looks for excuses. That resistance isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're breaking a pattern. Growth always feels like friction before it feels like freedom. By the second week, discipline starts settling in. You still feel resistance, but it's quieter. Your routine begins to feel familiar. You're no longer negotiating with yourself as much. That's important. Less negotiation means less energy wasted. You start moving with intention instead of emotion. By the third week, something dangerous happens in a good way. You start respecting yourself more, not because life is perfect, but because you're proving you can keep promises to yourself. That self-respect changes how you speak, how you carry yourself, how you approach challenges. You're no longer trying to convince yourself you're capable. You're watching it happen. Consistency works because it removes identity confusion. You stop asking who you are and start showing it through action. You don't need to announce growth. Growth speaks through consistency. People notice when your behavior changes before your words do. 30 days of consistency also reprograms how you respond to discomfort. You stop running from it. You stop labeling it as a reason to quit. Discomfort becomes part of the process, not a threat to it. That mental shift alone puts you ahead of most people. The real power of 30 days is momentum. Once momentum exists, stopping feels harder than continuing. What used to feel forced now feels natural. What used to feel heavy now feels necessary. That's identity change in motion. You don't need perfect execution for 30 days. You need honest effort. Missed moments don't erase progress unless you let them. Consistency isn't about being flawless. It's about being committed. Showing up even when the day doesn't go your way. As your identity shifts, your standards rise. You stop tolerating distractions that pull you backward. You become more selective with your time, your energy, your circle, not out of ego, but out of clarity. Now, what you're building now. The biggest mistake people make is stopping once they start seeing results. They think the work is done, but those first results are proof, not the finish line. 30 days is the doorway. Walk through it and the momentum carries forward. One day you realize you don't need to force yourself anymore. The habits are part of you. The discipline is part of you. The focus is part of you. That's when identity has officially been rewritten. Consistency doesn't just change what you do. It changes who you believe you are. And once your identity upgrades, your actions follow automatically. That's how 30 days turns into a lifetime shift.